Welcome to the Human User Manual podcast, episode 5B. If you haven't watched episode 5A or part 1, What is Stress? I invite you to start there first because this episode builds directly on what we've uncovered in that one. Now in episode 5B or part 2, we're going to go even deeper. We're going to slow everything down and look inside the human stress mechanism itself. The hidden sequence that runs every time you feel tense, fear, or frustration. Because every stress reaction, no matter what triggers it, follows the same invisible pattern. And once you understand that pattern, you can start to break it. In this episode, you'll see how your imagination turns simple events into emotional storms, and how to interrupt that process before it overtakes you. You'll learn how to recognize the trigger, spot the story, and step out of that loop entirely. Because when you see the movie your mind is playing, you stop being the character in it. You become the director. So if you've already watched part 1, episode 5A, welcome back. This is the next step forward in mastering your mind. And if you've joined us for the first time, I highly recommend watching part A after this one. It will give you the foundation for what you're about to experience. So take a breath and settle in. Let's open the curtain on the inner movie, the one that has quietly written every stress reaction you've ever had until now. Let's slow this down a bit and really look at how stress actually works. Because once you understand the mechanism, not just the feeling, but the machinery of it, you can begin to take back control. This is the stuff they don't teach us in school. Every stress reaction you've ever had, every single one, follows the same invisible pattern. It doesn't matter whether it's traffic, a phone call from your boss, a tense conversation with your partner, or an unexpected bill. The pattern never changes. Picture this. You're driving home after a long day at work. The sun's low, traffic is heavy, and the radio is playing softly in the background. Then someone cuts you off. They didn't signal, there's no warning. You just see a blur of metal slide into your lane. That's step 1, the stimulus, the trigger. Something happens. That's a neutral event, just information entering your awareness. But almost instantly, your mind jumps in. That idiot, he could have killed me. People have no respect. What if I get into an accident next time? And just like that, you're in step 2, interpretation, where your imagination takes over. This is where it all begins, because in a fraction of a second, your mind starts writing a story about what just happened. It pulls from memories, that old accident years ago, or maybe an accident you've seen that you were not involved in, that near miss, that story your friend told you. It pulls from fears, your insecurities, your desire to control. And in that instant, it tries to make sense of the moment. It assigns meaning. This is bad. This is dangerous. I'm not safe. That story becomes a movie, vivid, emotional, and personal. And now you're not reacting to the car. You're reacting to the movie your imagination just created about the car. Now let your emotional system join the scene. Anger floods in. Fear tightens your chest. Your breathing shallows. Your jaw clenches. That's step three, the emotions. You begin to perform the story your mind just wrote. As a result, your heart rate spikes, adrenaline surges, and your muscles tense. You're now living inside the psychological echo of a mental script. But here's the truth: you're not reacting to the event, you're reacting to your interpretation of the event. And that is the wrong use of the imagination. The mind doesn't know the difference between a story that is imagined and a danger that's real. And so the cycle begins. The mind writes the story, the emotions play their part. You react like a character in a movie following the director's command. And before you know it, you're caught in a storm that you accidentally summoned yourself. Now imagine the same pattern repeating all day, every day. You wake up to emails, deadlines, social media, the news, bills, relationships, each one a trigger, each one an opportunity for the imagination to start writing fearful stories. This will go wrong. That will go wrong. They don't like me. I'm falling behind. And every time that story runs, stress hormones flood the system again and again and again until stress becomes your normal. And peace feels like an exotic vacation you can't afford. But the truth is, it's never been about the world doing this to you. It's your untrained imagination running your own negative script. And in many cases, running someone else's script, someone else's program. Now, here's the key: you can't always control step one. Life will still happen. People will still cut you off. Projects will still fall apart. The unexpected will still show up uninvited. But you can completely master steps two and three. That's where your power lies. That's where sovereignty begins. Because in that tiny space between what happens and how you respond, there's a choice. You can catch yourself in the moment the story begins to form and ask, wait, what am I telling myself right now? What's the story my imagination is writing? And when you do that, when you see it instead of being it, the entire reaction chain collapses. Imagine the same situation again. The car cuts you off, but this time you stop, you take a breath, you say, that's their story, not mine. Maybe he just really needed to pee, and you keep driving. The event is the same, but your reality is completely different. Do you see how that small shift in imagination turned reaction into awareness and chaos into calm? And the result? Zero stress. That's the alchemy of awareness. Nothing external changed, but your inner story did. And because of that, your entire emotional experience improved. This is the true secret behind mastering stress. It's not about eliminating pressure from your life. It's about, it's about mastering the part of you that creates unnecessary suffering through the wrong use of the imagination. It's about learning to tell yourself a different story, one that empowers instead of disempowering. Because once you do that, you stop being an emotional reaction machine. You become a creator. You start living intentionally, deliberately, consciously. And that right there is one more solid step forward on the path of mental and emotional sovereignty. Let's talk about something subtle, something most people never even notice. It's small, almost invisible, but it holds your freedom. There's always a tiny space between what happens and how you respond or react. And that space is everything. You get a nasty comment online, someone says something cruel, thoughtless, maybe even personal. Old you reacts immediately. You fire back, defend yourself, prove your point. Your heart's racing, your mind spins, and now you're trapped in someone else's energy. They threw you a hook and you took the bait. But the new you, the aware you, does something different. You pause, you breathe, you feel the initial wave rise, and you let it pass. You recognize this isn't about me, this is about their state of consciousness. You might even smile a little, realizing how often you used to fall for that trap. Now you see it instead of being it. And that pause is freedom. That pause is power. That pause is sovereignty. Because in that single breath, that split second of awareness, you step out of the storm. You take back ownership of your own state of mind. That untrained mind reacts. The aware mind responds or chooses not to. And the difference between those two, that's the difference between living in chaos and living in peace. I once worked with a CEO who couldn't sleep. And I don't mean that occasional restless night. I mean years of waking up at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, his mind racing like a runaway train. On paper, he had everything that most people chase their whole lives: a thriving company, a beautiful home, a reputation built on discipline and drive. He had people who admired him, some even envied him. But every night, as soon as the lights went out and the world became quiet, his imagination turned against him. He'd lie there, his mind whispering, what if the market crashes? What if I make a wrong decision? What if I lose everything? And he'd start playing those scenes in his head over and over again, like a movie on repeat. He'd imagine the phone call from the board, the headlines, the disappointment in his family's eyes. All of it fictional, yet powerful enough to keep his nervous system on red alert. He wasn't exhausted from the work itself. He was exhausted from thinking about the work, from the wrong use of his imagination about his work. He was fighting battles that only existed in his mind. A question was asked of him that he'd never considered before. Do you think your stress is really coming from your responsibilities or from the way you imagine them? As if everything will fall apart if you're not in control. He sat with that for a while because for him, control was safety. He truly believed that if he didn't constantly worry, if he didn't stay on high alert, everything would fall apart. But here's the irony: his very attempt to control everything, that was causing things to fall apart. He wasn't managing his business anymore. His business was managing him. So he began to retrain his imagination to use it correctly this time. Instead of picturing things falling apart, he started imagining everything running smoothly. He visualized the team handling their roles and responsibilities with confidence, projects unfolding perfectly, outcomes aligned effortlessly. He replaced the old story, I have to control everything, with a new one. Everything is unfolding in order and in due time. I am calm, capable, and supported. He learned that letting go doesn't mean losing control. It means trusting the process, trusting himself, trusting his team, and using his imagination to build peace instead of panic. And little by little, something beautiful happened. His sleep returned, his breathing softened, his mind finally believed it was safe again. The market didn't change. His workload didn't change. The only thing that changed was his story, his imagination. And with that single internal shift, the storm stopped. Same life, same world. A better imagination led to a better outcome. So, what about you? Where does your imagination turn against you? What's the story that plays on repeat when the world goes quiet? Maybe it's about money. Maybe it's about health. Maybe it's about what other people think of you. You see, most people have their own version of that negative mental movie, the one that keeps them awake, rehearsing disasters that have never happened and never will. It's not because you're broken, it's because your imagination is powerful and no one has taught you how to use it correctly. The truth is, the subconscious does not care what story you feed it. It simply accepts repetition as truth. If you play fear, it projects danger. If you play doubt, it projects limitations. But if you play calm, if you play peace, if you feed it stories of capability, trust, and composure, it projects confidence and positive self esteem. The emotions align, your life expression and experiences follow, and your whole system begins to harmonize. That's why mastering your imagination isn't a luxury, it's survival. Because if you don't learn to direct it consciously, someone else will, and it will not be in your best interest. So pause for a moment, take a breath, and ask yourself right now, what story have I been telling myself this week? If that story has been filled with fear, doubt, or worry, you don't need to fight it. You just need to rewrite it. And that's exactly what we'll explore next: how to rewrite those inner scripts in a way that restores your peace, your focus, and your power. Because when you do, you'll realize the truth. It was never the event that caused the stress, it was always the story. And the storyteller was you. Now let's make this practical. Here are 3 tools you can use to catch yourself the moment that stress begins. Number 1, name it. When stress hits, say out loud, "This is my mind reacting." That single act separates you from the emotion and puts awareness back in control. Breathe it out. Take 3 slow, deliberate breaths. With every exhale, imagine the old story dissolving, losing power, and fading like smoke. Reframe it. Ask yourself, how is this helping me grow? Every trigger becomes training. Every moment of tension becomes a doorway to awareness. That's how stress stops being your enemy and becomes your teacher. The moment you become aware of your stress, it begins to lose its grip. Awareness breaks the automatic reaction. It's like switching on a light in a dark room. The monsters vanish instantly. They were never real, just projections of your imagination, mistaken for a reality. And that awareness, that light, is your freedom. So let's close this part with one positive truth. Stress doesn't come from what is happening to you, it comes from what you believe about what is happening to you. Improve the story, and you improve your entire life. If this episode spoke to you, there's a deeper level waiting in the extended Patreon version, where we move from understanding to embodiment through positive affirmations, guided meditation with visualization that rewrites the stress response deep in your subconscious mind. So join me there and let's do the inner work together. Because the calm you seek isn't out there, it's inside, waiting to be remembered. And when it is, stress will have no place to live.